figure out what you want, ignore the opinions of others, and do so much volume that it would be unreasonable that you would be unsuccessful. Now, everyone was lining up because they were excited to buy the product because all the products are great. And so in listening, so like if you've read any Steve Jobs stuff, it's like he actually saw the same deposits of goodwill, but he just saw it through the product itself. It's like, we can deposit goodwill because of how good our products are. And we have some bad products, which we obviously try not to make bad products. But if we do have a product that was a flop, we messed up something, then he saw that as like the give, take, which really just ladders up to just always reward your customers at all interactions, period. And so, and if you have consistently rewarded someone, then they will have less friction and they will buy faster and they'll be willing to buy at a higher price than to something that's unknown, which is why you're able to command a premium price. And so, how does brand, overcome those things? It doesn't. It just factors into risk. And people love buying things that are risk-free. And if you've bought if you've gone to Chipotle 100 times and you like it, then you'll go again. And let's say the first time you ever go to Chipotle, you get a bad bowl, but you don't know it's a bad bowl because you've never had Chipotle before, then maybe you'll never go to Chipotle again. But if you've had 20 good bowls and you have one bad bowl, they've probably bought enough goodwill from you to get a 21st bowl, right? And so there's the content that you make that on its own will reward people for giving you something, which is their time, and you give them some sort of benefit for doing it. Jimmy does it by continuing to entertain people. And we do it by trying to educate business owners. But everyone, as long as the person that you're trying to attract gets what they want out of it, then it's a win. And ideally, when you provide the service or product that you spend all that time on, they buy it and they tell their friends. And then they don't see it as a negative brand experience. They buy it and then they buy the next thing. And so I don't think that brand overcomes those things or sits separately. It actually just is a high lever on the risk.
So you would say that the jab isn't even necessary. It can just be right hooks.
Or rather, right hook would just be all taking. So no, it'd be the other way. So it'd be all jabs, no right hooks. It'd be all gives, and then you just get.
So you used to position your videos way back as I have nothing to sell you.
Yeah.
Do you think School would have had such a successful marketing campaign if you had said at the beginning of all those videos, Alex Hormozi, the co-owner of School, if you want it, it's link in description, and then just did the same video?
Maybe, I don't know.
Like I found School particularly effective because it was like, oh, this guy hasn't really sold anything to people, and like I'm not a portfolio company that he'd want to invest in, so he's just been giving me value. Oh, what's the School thing? It's finally the thing he's pushed. Let me get this. So do you think there's any merit to that, or is congruency probably the better strategy?
Well, okay. So you said, so there was two questions there. So one is, would the School launch have worked as well if I had presented other stuff before that?
That could work. Yeah.
Maybe if the other stuff that I presented was good. In terms of the congruency piece, I had a huge percentage of my audience that wanted to start businesses. I'm not going to help gazillions. I don't want to build that business. But School is a platform that can do it for zillions of people at once. And so I spent 4 years looking for something that I thought was the best product on the market, and School is the best product on the market in that category. And so that's why I was like, okay, I feel good putting my name behind this. Because I also invest and buy companies that I don't put my name on, not because I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but just it doesn't appeal to a huge percentage. If I buy a teeth whitening chain, there's no point in me pushing my teeth whitening chain.
Our promise is we're here to help you make your first $1,000 online. That's it.
What means the most to you in life right now?
I've gone through so much chaos and headache and stress. I've broadened my horizons so much, but I still have so much farther to go. There's so much I don't know. I really, really, really look forward to being a father.
What are the 5 business strategies that actually work? At what point does brand become higher leverage than these?
So, all these almost ladder up to the value equation, which is, you have latency, so you have speed, right? You have ease, so how easy can we make, how can we remove friction? There's perceived like of achievement, which is, you could ladder to consistency. How can we make this risk-free? I say reliability, also kind of like, same. The, impact itself, like, can we make the impact more meaningful to a customer? Like, these are all kind of like the components of value. It's not that, so brand only really influences one of those. which is just the perceived likelihood of achievement. So people will buy a brand because they've been rewarded from that brand in the past. And then the product will reinforce the cycle of the brand or deteriorate it. And so there's a lot of concepts in like the creator world where it's like, jab, jab, dab, right hook, or, give, ask, whatever you want to call it. That is true if the products you have are not great.
I actually agree with that.
Giving, and then it's a take when you sell the thing. But no one's like, oh my God, Apple, let's say Apple 10 years ago, is coming out with a new product. No one was like, oh, they're right hooking us now. Everyone was
synergistic. If I was to go ahead and start and create new businesses that then have nothing to do or I have no competitive advantage in, and I do, for example, even the business earlier today, there was a business yesterday, those are businesses I invest in, right? But they're existing businesses because I don't want to get them off the ground.
Yeah.
Because I have no competitive advantage in that industry.
Yep.
So, it's no help. So definitely building a personal brand has helped propel that massive growth.
Yeah, I mean, you've gone from 170K to, I think it's 4.9 or 5 mil at the time of this recording.
Something
like that. In the space of 3 years, bro, that's mental, bro. So hats off to you and the team who have put that in place.
I appreciate it.
That's insane, bro.
No, I mean, I think we were still, in April of 2022, I think we were still at like basically 2 years ago, we were at 250K or something.
I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say it was not different type of content, but I feel like now when I watch your content, there's always a message behind it.
Yeah.
And there's always a lot of value that people can take away from it. I feel like back then, whilst there was value and there's things for people to take away from, I feel like now it's just scaled the same sort of thing, but 100x basically.
I think the main difference is, and just to close the loop on the question you had beforehand, personal brand, the other thing, main thing has honestly just been managing a team. Like I didn't go to business school. I have no experience in any businesses previously. I've never worked in organizations. Like there's so many things I had to learn: legal, HR, accounting, finance, managing teams, and managing departments and nurturing department leads. And there's just so many things that I had to learn over time about actually having a real company. Because not to say that I didn't have a real company back then, but it was just kind of like 5 employees, 6 employees, whatever it was, depending on the year, and a small, very lean cash flow online businesses.
Yeah, but you've been doing it from your teenage years, bro.
I know, but that's not a real company. That's not a real department.
But my point being is that you've never worked in another company or external company.
Correct.
For you to learn those things. It's not like you've got a job at one of the biggest firms in London in HR or in accounting or anything to know exactly how the operation is. You've had to learn everything hands-on within your own businesses.
Correct. This is correct. But that was one of my biggest learning curves. And that was one of the biggest things that I had to learn. One of the biggest things I had to learn was also how to step away and like how to really see potential in people and understand who is an operator. There's certain people that are operators. There's certain people that are thinkers. And I'll be honest, there's certain people that are very good at thinking, but sometimes you don't want a thinker in that position in the company. Like I've even learned that in some of my companies where I've hired a person that is very visionary like me or forward thinking. We're going to do this is the 2-year game plan. We're going to execute this at this point. And us two together just doesn't work. Even though they're the CEO and I'm the founder, so I'm not day-to-day running the business, it just simply doesn't work. I need a person who's more like a COO who just comes in and actually operates the business. So I'd say that's probably, with the personal brand, that's probably another massive thing that helped contribute to that. On your point of the YouTube and I guess my personal brand and more valuable, I wouldn't necessarily say I made it more valuable. I would say it was more thoughtful. And the one thing that I will say is online, I definitely dumbed myself down. That's the truth. Online, I've learned to make my points more cohesive. I've learned to not talk about 95% of my life or the real actual behind the scenes business things that go on. It's funny. I saw this whole, I feel like sometimes there's this perception of me online that I just make content. I genuinely spend 2-3 hours a month creating content. I run my fucking business. I run every single one of my businesses, and I've tried the whole put CEOs in place and blah, blah. And, I guess for some of my companies where I have business partners, that works. But like for the businesses that I personally started, no one knows the business as well as I know the business.
Yeah. Do you not think you could train someone to know the business as well as you know the business?
I think there's certain businesses I have where we're following a playbook. For example, I'll give you an example of my software company. With my main software company, Flowzy, there's not many people who we can follow their playbook in the sense of like, one of our competitors has had $475 million in funding. We've had 0. So they're playing a very different game. Like they can acquire customers at a loss. We can't acquire customers at a loss. They have hundreds of millions of dollars to put into development. We have to self-fund the full thing. So it's if I take this CEO of a $3.2 billion company, you may be a good CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, but your knowledge is absolutely like
it's not applying to our company.
It's not applicable to the way that we've had to build our company up.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other thing that you have to bear in mind is you can find CEOs, but they just need to have kind of walk the path that you're trying to walk in. For some of these businesses, because as you know, the digital landscape has evolved so much in 10 years, there's businesses that have sprouted up that are still relatively new. For example, like the e-learning platform, it is a relatively new industry. We've got people that I look at, like people like Masterclass, who are, technically competitors of ours. They're worth from what I remember, $2.7 billion, revenues of $94 million, not profitable. They make zero money. They lose money.
Really?
So yeah. So, and the reason they have a 27x multiple is a lot of it's to do with the IP rights that they have with the people that that come on to teach, whatever. I guess that's a whole separate discussion. But the point is, their playbook, I can't follow their playbook because I didn't get X amount of funding to then build the company to acquire customers at a loss.
Yeah.
So yeah, are they technically in the same industry? For sure. But it's to believe that you can have any service or any niche and get it to $100,000 a month. That's a different beast. This is a totally different animal. But to get to $10,000 a month, you can have any service in any niche and you should stick to that. But if you were hypothetically to get a Facebook ads expert from South Africa, a Zapier expert from Brazil, then you went to Slovakia and got a email marketing expert, and you had these people, they don't cost you anything. These contractors don't cost you anything just to have them ready to go. But the second that you sign an email marketing client, okay, well, first of all, the client pays you up front. That's how agency works. Even when you work with any half decent law firm, they expect prepayment up front. They want money on account. So you're collecting the money up front as the agency, and the contractor, every contractor, employee, everyone knows you get paid once you do the work.
Yeah, of course.
So it creates this positive cash flow. And there's certain businesses in the world that work this way, and that's why they become so successful. For example, insurance companies. Insurance companies are actually technically banks in the way that they operate because they collect money from you, and you may never deposit, you may never take out that money or take out that insurance claim ever. There's people who've been paying for insurance, car insurance for 20 years and never even had a claim.
Yeah, nothing like that, yeah.
So they basically get to take all of that cash flow, take all of that money in, and then they get to go ahead and invest that in different places. And if you take that same principle and that same philosophy, it's actually very similar to what we're doing here, which is arbitrage. We're getting paid up front, and then the contractor is getting paid once the work gets delivered. So you have that little positive arbitrage play, and you have that cash flow play right there. It's kind of the same way like dropshipping.
Yeah.
In dropshipping, you get the payment up front, and then obviously you pay for the product. Very similar thing. And that means that the risk is, in that dropshipping example, it means the risk is very low. My only concern, and the only thing I make clear to people, and by the way, as I said, we have dropshipping taught by Jordan Welch, who's probably one of the foremost experts in the world. So I am a fan of dropshipping if it's done in the right way, and as long as you don't risk all of your money on advertising, because the thing is, what I love about a service-based business is you can fail for 8 months and it doesn't matter. Like when I'm speaking to beginners, I was trying to make it clear. You want something where you can literally fail for 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, a year, and it doesn't matter because what you're spending $30 a month on like a couple softwares that you need to run the software, or what you're spending $49 a month at my software company, Flowzy, to run your entire operations. Listen, I get it's still $50 a month. It's not ideal to lose that, but a year in, you spent $600, you get one client, $1,500.
Paid there and then.
Paid there and then.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes with these other business models, for example, Amazon FBA, sometimes you know, like I know what it's like. I've put millions and millions and millions of dollars into physical product stocks and physical brands that I have. And look, I have one of my companies, I have dead stock sitting from 2021. I was actually found out about it yesterday. I was like, oh, listen, it's not crazy amounts of money, but like even seeing that hurts. And I was like, fuck, like I misread how much stock I needed, and it's just been sitting there. And that's fine for me in my position. That doesn't hurt me. But if I was a beginner and I've put all this money into stock and the market doesn't want it in the way I think it wants it, I'm at a big potential loss. So that's why I'm such a big fan of service-based businesses, because you basically can just fail for a long time and it doesn't really matter. It's not going to wipe you out.
See, here's my thing with it. I completely agree with you. I know it's a business that works. My only caveat to it is the fact that nothing's as simple as it seems, right?
Correct.
And in this case, I know that service-based business like that, like an agency, like a social media agency, whatever the case may be, can be very, very, very competitive. So for someone to get their first client in the first place may be the biggest task out of them all. They may learn everything from yourself. But getting their first client might be the biggest strain of the whole thing that they've ever got put together.
Yeah, you're correct. But that's the same thing with anything in life.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it goes without saying.
And you are correct, but that's why I preface this by saying that I love seeing people fail for 18 months of this and not be bankrupted, because I can't think of many businesses in the world where you can start it for 18 months, you can fail, and it won't bankrupt you, and it won't wipe you out. Because you try and fail at an e-commerce business for 18 months, you're gonna be looking at some serious debt. You try to, and by the way, that's why, for example, in Digital Launchpad, most of the methods that we teach don't involve any ad spend. So most of it is organic, because my number one goal is I don't want my audience to lose money. I don't want my audience to try something and then it's like get wiped out. Because I understand, and the reason is because I understand how difficult it is when you first start. And I understand that when you first start, more than likely you will fail. It will be harder for longer than you think it will be. But once you get your first success, it'll probably be quicker than you could ever anticipate.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And that's just the way the world works. When it rains, it pours. So I do agree with your statement that getting that first client can seem monumental and can seem very, very difficult. And it probably will be more difficult than you think it will be. When I got my first client, I wasn't really intending to get a client. It just happened accidentally. And that was August of 2016. It was 7 months later that I got my second client. So that's 7 months. Most people would give up in that time. But one of the reasons I didn't give up was it wasn't costing me anything to try.
What would you be doing differently, if anything, aside from maybe just more volume?
I probably wouldn't be going after a tiny slice of a segment, which is what I go after. So business owners, it's like 9% of America owns a business. Of the 9% of America that owns a business, only 5% are over $1 million a year. Of the 5% that are over $1 million a year, well, I guess of the 9%, the 9%. So 1 out of 250 makes it to $10 million a year. 1 out of roughly 2,500 makes it to $100 million a year. So it's a very small slice of the pie that I make my content for. And so by its very nature, I don't get massive distribution. I get decent distribution, but not like an entertainer might. And so if I wanted to make only making money from media my own thing, then I would do super, super broad topics and things that are just human based. And I mean, that would basically be it, right? You just pick a topic that transcends all races, all cultures, all people, and entertainment is the easiest one because everyone wants to laugh. Everyone wants to be distracted. And so that's why entertainers will always be bigger than educators as a category.
On brand, I know you've recently, maybe not recently at this point, in the past year, kind of delved into business content to go deeper, to kind of get more deal flow for acquisition and provide more value to business owners. Do you believe it was important, though, to establish some of the other types of content you did originally around fitness, nutrition, et cetera?
It's so funny because I've only made, I think 3 pieces of content in total on fitness, and they still have contributed to the overall brand makeup. If you think about the brand as a mosaic with lots of little pieces. But I do have some pretty updated thoughts on this, which is just, I see there's marketing and there's personal branding, and there's an intersection between those things. And so if I only wanted to advertise for the business, then I think that I would be just fine making only content about business. I also have a personal brand, and I want the personal brand to be as accurate a reflection of me as humanly possible. And so my measure for that is my mental image is like glass, which is that if there's a glass wall and I'm on the other side and there's a room and there's all this stuff inside, but inside the glass wall is dark. I think about the content as a flashlight that just focuses on one area of my life. And I want the flashlight basically over time to illuminate the whole room so that if someone were to walk in, they would see everything and they wouldn't be surprised. They'd be like, this is accurate. This is exactly what I expected. And to me, that's what, personal branding done right is that when someone meets me in person, I'm exactly as they expected. And of course it's difficult because you can't control, even with more volume, you can't control the reach. So I know that if I make a video about a relationship, I'm going to get
Apple bonds, US government bonds, different companies that actually produce. I don't like buying bonds from banks because they don't actually produce anything. So you can see in, what was that, 2.5 years, something like that, how my mindset changed so much as an investor. I am like a grandpa investor these days. I buy stocks. I buy a stock into stock market, even when I don't want to. Like every Tuesday, amount automatically gets deducted from one of my private banks that I work with. So every week on Tuesday, we don't invest on Mondays or Fridays because you don't want to invest around market open or market close.
Yep.
Because it can be a lot of volatility. So we invest every single week on Tuesday, and every single week when that money goes out, first of all, I guess I don't even realize it goes out, but knowing it pisses me off because I don't want to invest in the stock market. The reason why is because I believe the stock market is incredibly overvalued as it currently stands. But I've just decided, you know what? Let me just not think too much and let me just do what I know works, which is just dollar cost average. And I can't go wrong with it. And that's one side of my investment. I've got other sides of my investment, et cetera, et cetera. So I think just learning what kind of investor you are, even for me, as I started investing in property, a lot of property, a couple of years ago, I've kind of come to a realization. For me, success used to be every single month I want to buy a property. Now I'm at a point where I want to buy a property twice a year. I mean, for investment purposes, not for personal use, but I want to buy a property twice a year. And which is, rather than buying a property every single month, I'd rather buy a property that's cost 6 times as much and wait every 6 months and only have one tenant to deal with. And I would also rather take, like, for example, in all my properties, I only accept a year payment upfront. And I know I lose potential customers or potential tenants because of it. I know that I charge less money because of it. But for me, and I have a team that handles all this. I have my family office, I have my CFO. So it's not like I'm the one collecting rent payments and this, that, but just the idea that someone's late on their rent pisses me off so much, where I'm like, the return on this just simply isn't worth it. So this is stuff that you will learn as time goes on.
It's almost like, sorry to interrupt you there, so it's almost like the tenants are people like yourself then, of people who want to be in you've bought a villa like this, and then renting this out would be insane for someone like yourself to come along. Yeah, I'll pay you up front, done.
Correct.
Make your life easier.
Correct. But the point is, that's something that you learn over time. When I was young, I thought that success meant as much real estate. I just wanted to own as many doors as humanly possible. Now I've kind of come to terms where I'm willing to make less money if that means less complexity and less headache. That's also the stage of life that I'm at right now. Who knows, maybe in 20 years where all I am as an investor, I don't have my business anymore, I just focus on my investments, then maybe, things will be different. So all that summarized to say that everyone's going to have a different risk tolerance. Everyone's going to have a different things that they like to make money from. They're also going to have different competitive advantages. Competitive advantages still apply to investments. If your family has been in property for 30 years, you should probably fucking get into property. And you should probably get into property in the same places they go into property and use your competitive advantages. Yeah. I didn't have any competitive advantages on that front. So I guess I've just had to play around in the sandpit and find what works for me and what doesn't work for me. So I could tell people, I've kind of told people, I guess, my philosophy around investing in this, it applies to such a small amount, which is why, as I said, online, I usually have to dumb myself down because I can't really talk about what I've got going on because it applies to about 12 people in the audience. And then I'm doing a disservice by putting out content that it only applies to such a small, minute amount of people.
It doesn't resonate with everyone.
Yeah, so that's why I have to talk about some of the more basic stuff and the more generalizations. So we're talking about people at their beginning stage. The best thing that you can invest in, and it annoys me that I have to say this, or it annoys me when I say this because I can understand how it can come across as disingenuous, but the best thing you can invest in is yourself. And I'll explain why the best thing, and I don't care what you buy. I don't care if you take a 200-pound course on accounting. I don't care, literally anything. But the point is, because you are the business, for so long as you are the business, you are the only revenue generator, and you are the predictor of how successful that business is. So the more capable you are as a person means the more capable the business is. Now, as time goes on and you grow your business will outgrow you, and your business success will not be determined or should not be determined on you as a person. Yeah. You should have created this organism, this living, breathing organism that can survive and sustain without you. So to bring that back as to why it's so important to invest in yourself, because you really don't have any other lever to pull. That's really the only thing that you've got going for yourself. When you're, really in the first couple of years of business, like you are the business and you are the thing that will either determine whether the business dies or whether it succeeds. So make yourself as strong as possible, make yourself as knowledgeable as possible, make yourself as skilled as you can humanly be. And that's why I say invest in yourself, whatever it is. And that doesn't mean that, buy some shiny online program, this, that. It could literally be a boring qualification you get in accounting or finance. Because I swear some of the shit that sounds boring, like, is genuinely very, very useful in business.
Yeah, of course. Do you know what? If we had to bring it to the example of someone who gets paid $10,000 a month, all of what you just said applies there. And also, I just done a podcast, funny enough, with someone who's a private investment banker, right?
Yeah.
Works for Coutts Bank in the UK. And he's just written a book. And in the book, he's got a very powerful statement, a very good statement, which is get a grip of where your money is. And what was it? I wrote it down. I can't remember exactly. If you can't see where your money is going, your money can't see what you're trying to achieve with it. Yeah. Now, with that being said, I like the idea of someone who earns their first $10,000 in their month or whatever the case may be, but also having the idea and the knowledge of what to do with the money once they got it and strategizing and planning around that, because I feel like that's a very, very important thing. Because if someone, I was a victim of it as well, made a good amount of money, and what do you do with the first amount of money that when you first see it, if you don't have any plans of it, you end up blowing it. Yeah. So I think it's very, very important for people who make the first lot of money, whether it's from digital launchpad or whatever else they're doing, to have something in place in mind, ready to